Okay, so this is the desk. All the drawers are out. The roll top is up. The little drawers are still in there, but all the little drawers can just slide right out. There's nothing holding them in. Okay, so there's definite order in which to take things apart, and it's definitely heavy with all the pieces together. So what I'll do is the next few videos and pictures, I'll explain the order in which things come apart, and hopefully it'll help someone whoever gets this and puts it back together down the road. This is the back of the desk, and to start the disassembly, you have to take all these panels off. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 panels, and they all have Phillips screws up here around the perimeters. Once those are off, that allows you to get to the rest of the top and the timbre, and then the parts of the bottom of the desk as well. So that's what I'm going to go do next, is take this apart. Okay, so I've got one panel loose. All the panels are unscrewed. All the panels on the bottom use 1.5-inch screws. The top panel has 1-inch screws. I'll try to mark those on the insides, but there's 2 screws down here that are 1.5-inch screws, okay? And you'll see the difference in the screws. And I believe there's still, actually, for that top panel, there might be a couple shooting straight up to hold it in place, but I'll take a picture of that if that's the case. Okay, this is the front of the desk. Like I said, I just took apart the back, but that center panel doesn't come loose yet. So there's got to be something else holding that in, and sure enough, there is. If you go around here to the front of the desk, go down into the knee hole, you'll see those 2 brackets up there with the screws in them. There's one there and there's one there. And there's also screws up in the drawer slide area that go into that back center panel. Those all have to come loose before that back panel comes off. And that's what I'll do next. Okay, so all the panels in the back are off now, loose, the bottom panels. And so the back part of the desk is all apart, the bottom section. Those are all screws. They're 1.5-inch screws that go into those holes that I showed you. The top ones I've marked. This panel should come off, but it's actually keyed in down here in the desktop with dowels, so it won't come off until I get the top of the desk loose. So for right now, this is what happens. You take these pieces away, and it opens it up and it shows you the back of the desk. And what this is actually the locking mechanism for the drawers and the roll top, okay? I'll go over that more later on, but that's kind of it's something that Grandpa did when he made the desk. A lot of them have locking mechanisms. So if you know who Rube Goldberg was, well, that's kind of reminds me of it, but it does work. But it does cause some issues down the road if you ever have to take it apart. So anyway, the next piece is this piece here. That's actually the drawer slide for the center desk drawer, okay? And there's a couple of screws up here that hold it in place. So we'll take that out next. Okay, so this center piece here is kind of a booger. I'll just say that right up front. The way Grandpa designed it was kind of different. So anyway, there's these 2 big bolts that go through, okay? Those have to come out. There's one there, and there's one here. I got to screw that out the rest of the way. And there's some screws inside here, you'll see. By the time you do this, whoever does this, I'm going to change them out to all the same style of drive. Right now, there's about 3 different sizes of drives. Anyway, so those have to come loose, and these have to come loose. And it's also keyed, as I said before, to the back panel, and that's already loose. So that would probably be one of the last things that's assembled. But right now, we're doing the disassembly. So here we go. Okay, so we have the center section off now. All the back panels are off, all the drawers are out. So now it's time to try, and we will disassemble the top. Now it's really kind of cool how this works. There's these brackets right here, the unscrew. You'll see a screw here and screws here for these brackets and another screw set over here. You also see this strip along the side that's got 3 screws, okay? And there's another one here. There's 3 screws in this. Let's take those all out, and what that will do is that will release the top, the roll top part from the bottom part of the desk, and we'll be able to lift that and move it around. So the next thing will happen is we've got to be really careful that we don't lose the roll top timbers or the roll top itself, because that all comes out too. Okay, so this will all come out, and that part's actually pretty heavy, and it takes 2 people to get it in and out safely, properly. So anyway, we'll start taking this apart so we can get ready to take this all off. So I got all those brackets out, but something I want to show before we go further. All the little drawers come out. There's no drawer slides. Those are really easy, and they are numbered. I referenced them. So this is number 2, number 1, number 2, 3, 4. They start from the left and go to the right. There's 8 drawers that go in here, little cubby hole drawers. But also some of the cubbies come loose. Okay, some of these plywood pieces slide out. Okay, none of these, but these little ones should be attached. But some of them come out. Okay, so just be careful. They don't have to come out when you're disassembling or assembling or moving, but they can come out. So just be careful. What you'll notice when you get all these screws and everything out is now the top becomes loose. Okay, I can lift it right off. Okay, and you can see that there's a big old dowel and a dowel hole right there that keys it into place. Okay, so basically what happens now is this section with all the cubbies is one piece. Okay, the roll top tambours are another, and then that top piece that goes across these 2 ends and this top piece, they're fastened together right now. They could come apart, but for right now they're fastened together. Okay, so what we're going to do is if we lift this up and move it forward on the desktop, then we can slide, so that these grooves are over here. The timbers now will come right out. The whole roll top part will come right out. But I'm going to wait to do that until I have some help. Okay, so we have all the screws loose and the top section is loose. Okay, so it's really in a couple of different pieces. All we really have to do is we tip the back up and this section will slide right out. Okay, so I got the cubby holes out, and this is kind of a cool part of how this works. This is the timbers, the roll top. These are all individual slats or timbers, okay? That locking mechanism that I talked about before, that's what happens. So the roll top comes down and hits those levers and pushes them down, and that unlocks the drawers, okay? So that when you close the roll top part all the way down, you can actually lock it. Unfortunately, this lock mechanism is broken. Hopefully I'll get that fixed one of these days. Then when you lock this, all the drawers are locked as well. Except maybe, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 that are not in that mechanism. I think the center section is not in that mechanism. So anyway, these slats are all held together with a cable. There are actually several cables. You can see the cable down here. There's holes that go through all these slats all the way up and in up here, and anchors into this main piece. And those cables are what hold that timber together. So the next thing we need to do is get that off out of here, this whole roll top timber out of the framework. And what we'll do is we'll slide it forward so these slots are hanging over the edge, and we can get that out. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we want to take the timber out. Okay, so I'm going to lift up this desk part here, this top, and it lifts up and off. I just want to move it forward far enough that we can get the grooves out of the way. There. So now this desktop is sitting here with these grooves out, and I'll go ahead and slide the timbre out. The desktop is just kind of sitting here, and I want to slide the timbre out, the roll top part out. And if you keep on going, it's just going to keep on coming right on out of the desktop. Okay, so here it comes, it's out, and now you can see the other end of it, and it keeps on coming right on out, and there's the roll top part of the desk. Okay, so this whole section now can come apart with that back panel coming off, but there's a couple of screws right there in brackets and right over there, up there in brackets that have to come loose to get it off. And I'm not sure, I don't think these are attached to the top, and that's what the screw from the back attaches to. So when I get those loose, it should all come apart pretty easily. Okay, so that top piece is off, and I found there's 2 more screws that have to be taken out before this back panel comes off, and they're right here on the side. So once I take that screw out and on the other end, this back panel and these ends will be loose and be able to come off in one piece, or in their own piece. All right, so now you can see that the whole top part of the roll top is off. So now the last thing to do for the complete disassembly, if you're going to move it, is to remove the screws that hold the top on. And where they are located, there are 2 screws. This is in the cubby hole for your feet. There's a screw there, and on the other side there's a screw. And then on the inside of the cabinets, there's a screw there, back there, and in the back. So there's 6 screws in this cabinet, 6 screws in this cabinet that have to come loose to take the top off. So we'll go ahead and take those off, and we should be all done after that. So I got all the screws out. So one thing I noticed is these are all the screws that were in the cabinet, okay, in both sides, okay. These 2 screws are basically the same type, but they're a little smaller, and they're the ones that went right up here in the cubby hole up. And that's because these are going through less material than those in the cabinets. Those are going for a longer distance, so they have to be longer screws. Okay, so that means now that we are ready to take the top off, but I want to show you something before we talked before about how the roll top is what locks the drawers. This is the mechanism, okay? As the roll top comes down, it hits this mechanism and pushes this down, and that's what opens up the drawers. In other words, these little hooks go into loops on the back of the drawers. I think I still have them on there. I might have taken them off. But anyway, that would unlock the desk drawers, and that would lock the desk drawers. So anyway, as far as I know, I'll leave this in here, but if I decide to take it out for whatever reason, you would not be able to lock the drawers, which is not a big deal. Anyway, now I should be able to take this. So I remembered one thing about this mechanism here. To get the top off, you have to take this bolt thing out. And to take this bolt thing out, there's a little cotter pin right there. So I'm going to get a pliers. I'm going to pull that out. So I got to take this little cotter pin out of here. So I'm going to pull, actually, I got to unbend it in the back. Hang on. Cotter pins are bent so that they hold together. Go ahead and stop. Cotter pin unbent, so it should just pull right out. See, this is what a cotter pin looks like, and it goes through that hole through a hole in this bolt, and then they bend the ends out, and that's what holds that into position. Okay, so that's out of this one, and I'll take the other one. The cabinets are all left, just the carcasses, and they can be moved and slid anywhere you want. They don't disassemble any further, but they are pretty heavy, so just be careful.